Hi, I wanted to make a short video on how to solve these types of order of operation problems where there is a numerator and denominator somewhere in the problem. Um, so I have a few examples here, and you'll notice they're all basically the same where they have a numerator and denominator like that, but just know that there could also be other things in the problem as well. Like they might add a few more things that need to be simplified and then dealt with. But we'll get to those. If you remember our order of operations, it's PEMDAS, or please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And that stands for parentheses or grouping symbols, exponents, then multiplication, division in the same step from left to right, and then addition and subtraction in the same step from left to right. So we still follow the same order, but remember, fractions typically mean dividing, right? But essentially what we're doing is we're taking this entire numerator and then we're going to be dividing it by that entire denominator once we simplify those. So because of that reason, you kind of want to think of it this way. You kind of want to think of it as there's additional grouping symbols around the numerator and then additional grouping symbols around the denominator. That way, you know that you need to solve everything on top first and then divide it by everything on the bottom second. So still go in the order of your PEMDAS. So if we're starting with the top, the numerator, we do have a set of parentheses here. And within those parentheses, we also follow order of operations. So we're going to start with simplifying that exponent. So far, this is what I have. I have 7 minus 2 squared, which is 4, plus 17 on top. On the bottom, we haven't done anything to that yet, so let me just copy that over. And then again, we're imagining that the bottom has its own grouping symbols, and then so does the top. Then keep simplifying. So those parentheses can be simplified further. So 7 minus 4 is 3, plus 17 over negative 14 plus 2 times 5. Then we keep going, like on top, it's 3 plus 17, which is 20. And then I'll be dividing that by whatever we get on the bottom. And so within each set of parentheses, you need to follow order of operations again. So when you're deciding whether to do the negative 14 first added to 2 or the 5 times the 2 first, follow your order of operations. Multiplication comes before any addition or subtraction. So I have negative 14 plus to the 2 times 5, which is 10, so plus 10. And then we have negative 14 plus 10, which is negative 4. Now is the time where you can actually divide them. Once they are fully simplified on top and bottom of the fraction, then you can actually do that dividing. So I know it seems weird that we're doing dividing after like adding, for example, in that denominator, but that's the rule when it's in a fraction form. Pretend like there's grouping symbols around the top and bottom. And then once it's fully simplified, then you can divide them. So then 20 divided by negative 4 is negative 5. That's the solution for this one. All right, let's try another. So again, we have it set up in fraction form. We're basically going to apply our order of operations to the numerator and then to the denominator and then divide them. So if you want to keep drawing the grouping symbols, you can think of it that way. All right, but on the top, we don't have any parentheses other than the ones that I just drew in, but we do have some exponents. So we'll simplify that. 5 squared is 25. And then 3 to the 4th, I don't know off the top of my head, so I will use my calculator, and that is something you can do too. If you don't have a calculator right now, you can use desmos.com. But I only want you to use it for like simple operations. I don't want you to type this entire problem into desmos.com as it's shown, because then that's not going to help you when you get to your standardized testing. You do really have to know your order of operations. All right, but 3 to the 4th power is 81. So on top, I have 25 minus 81. On the bottom, I could simplify some of these parentheses if I wanted to, or I could start to at least. We'll do the exponents. So 2 cubed is 8. And then 6 squared is 36. All right, but still we want to fully simplify each side of the fraction before we divide any numbers together from the fraction. So then on the top, we have 25 minus 81, which is negative 56. On the bottom, we're still simplifying the parentheses. So I have 8 minus 5, which is 3, times 36 divided by 9, which is 4. All right, so the top is fully simplified, but I'm still not done with the bottom of our fraction. So 3 times 4 is 12. Now I can actually do the division now that the top is fully simplified and the bottom is fully simplified. I'm not sure how it wants my answers. Here is it as a decimal. As a fraction, it's negative 28 divided by 6, it looks like is the simplest form. Yeah, so 2 goes into both. All right, let's try another one. In this one, we have some different type of grouping symbols. We have brackets, which are basically kind of like parentheses. They just go outside of parentheses. And then we have absolute value symbols. Again, we want to fully simplify the top before we divide by the fully simplified bottom. So again, grouping symbols come first. So in the top, I'm going to carry over that 12 because that's not in the grouping symbols. But I have grouping symbols within grouping symbols. So I have the 30 that will be carried over after I simplify these inner parentheses. And then inside those parentheses, I have an exponent. So 4 squared is 16. Divided by absolute value of 10 is 10, minus the absolute value of negative 6, which is 6. All right, keep going. So on the top, I still need to do the 9 plus 16 in the parentheses, which is 25. On the bottom, 10 minus 6 is 4. Again, on the top, I have 30 minus 25, which is 5. Now 12 times 5 is 60, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, it is 60. And now that I fully simplify the top, I can now divide it by my fully simplified bottom. 60 divided by 4 is 15. Now remember, if you're wondering, like, why did I do the 10 minus 6 in this step when order of operations tells me to do adding and subtraction toward the end? When you're set up like this, the problems with a numerator and a denominator, just keep in mind, it's kind of like having 2 separate problems and then dividing them by each other. So I have my top that I need to fully simplify before I divide it by my bottom. So I was just kind of doing two problems at one there, just kind of simplifying one at a time until I get to my fully simplified answer of 15. Let's do one more. And I kind of want to change this a little bit and just add something that I often see in problems. So it'll be like a fraction, and then it'll say maybe plus 3 times 2 or something like that. So pretend that this is being added on to this problem. All right, so again, you still want to treat the numerator as its own separate problem that you're applying the order of operations to. Treat the denominator as its own separate problem that you're doing the order of operations to. Once you find the answers to the numerator and denominator, you'll divide them because that's what the fraction bar says to do, which is to divide. And then you will add it to whatever that is. So you kind of just break it into its own little groups and treat it kind of like they're parentheses. So we'll start with the numerator. So I have a set of parentheses here. So I'm going to simplify that first. I have 8 minus 11, which is -3. And that will be cubed. Minus 3, another set of grouping symbols, which is absolute value of -14, which is 14. And think about what this -3 is doing to those absolute value symbols. It's multiplying. So this will end up being -3 times a positive 14 over what we have on the bottom. We can start simplifying. We'll do the exponents before the subtraction. So 2 to the 4th power, that's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16. And then we have that little piece that I added on, which is the plus 3 times 2. And then I'll wait to simplify anything there toward the end. All right, and then keep simplifying. So in the numerator, we have some exponents to take care of. So -3 cubed, that's -3 times -3 times -3, which is a -27. And then we still have that minus that's out here. -3 times 14 over 16 minus 7, which is 9. And mind you, I am using a calculator. I encourage you to do that for like the simple operations. And then it will be plus 3 times 2, which is 6. Still simplifying the numerator. So here it's kind of like having a -1 times a -27. It becomes a positive 27, that double negative. And then it's going to be -3 times 14. If you're wondering which of those to do first, the minus or the multiplication, follow your PEMDAS, your order of operations. It would be the -3 times 14 that you do first. And that's -42. We're almost there. So now I have 27 minus 42, which is -15 over 9 plus 6. And I end up getting a decimal. I'm not sure how they want me to represent my answer as a decimal or a fraction. But if I round, I have my answer, which is about 4.3. I can tell you that the answers on your homework will be nice numbers or they'll be nice fractions, but I really just wanted to introduce you to what to do when the problems are containing a numerator and denominator. So hopefully that was somewhat helpful. If not, just do your best, get your assignment turned in, and we'll go over it when I return, which is tomorrow.